What's up, buddy?
I'm dancing.
I might have to go back to putting music in after we record.
I'm dancing.
Ryan just starts every show now by waving his arms around and repeating the same thing a few times.
Listen, if you didn't make such fire beats that were so distracting because of their fireness.
Sorry, I'll play some bullshit next time.
Yeah, next time
I'll close the show with just some straight garbage.
Next time just play like Rachmaninoff or like something like
my guy Sergey.
Something like, something less. I mean, don't get me wrong, like shout out to Sergey. Great music, just wouldn't get me all turned up like your bangers do.
That's fair. I'll maybe hit you with some Chopin next time or something.
Sure. This show would take a completely different energy if we kicked off with this.
Hey guys, you want to talk about some aliens tonight?
It's funny because many of the podcasts in our
this sucks so much already.
Genre.
Somewhat genre.
Well, I just feel like we don't really have a genre because the people that talk about the weird shit we talk about, no one has like this sense of humor about it that we have. Everyone's very like fucking serious and scary. And hey, shout out to you guys. We love you guys, but also like, I don't think anything is too serious to be made fun of.
I have to stop listening to a bunch of my favorite podcasts during October every year.
Oh yeah, you guys too spooked?
No, they just like they try and be scary and spooky, but they're not, and that's not why I like those podcasts.
We talked about Dracula, but we just made jokes about like garlic and shit.
Also, before we get started, we're putting this out a little bit early so we can remind you to please go vote.
Good morning, guys.
Yeah,
we usually say good evening.
This is Tuesday, November 6th, a.m. instead of p.m. Because
something sounds interesting about that day, Spencer. Why does that ring a bell?
I just said it.
Why? Did you say it? You just said the date.
Thanks for listening.
No, you said that date.
No, I said because voting. But yeah, go vote, please, today.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this on the day that comes out.
Your voice is important, and your civic duty is important, and shit doesn't change unless people participate in the process. And we might not always love the process, and it may be imperfect, but it's the only process we've got. So we just strongly encourage everybody to take a hot second, go vote, and mention us on social and send us a picture of your I voted sticker, and we'll give you some love because we believe in it. So please go do that.
Tight. We're going to talk about towns that disappeared.
You guys. So what had happened was sometimes.
Oh no, I don't have. Oh shit.
What happened?
I didn't hook up our. I can't play sounds.
What?
This is a new one for us, but please hold. Okay, we're back. Sorry. That was. I think that was a first for us, having to actually just hit pause in the middle of a recording because my dumbass had machine plugged into the wrong computer.
I think honestly, out of the 100 and is this 106?
Something like that.
God damn. If this was 106, oh, there it is.
Damn.
Yeah,
we're back.
Thanks, Noob. I feel like we've stopped to pause the show for a couple bathroom breaks and a couple like, oops, we inadvertently shared personal information about each other. But like, it's been...
We've gotten pretty good at not fucking up.
We haven't hit pause on an episode in I don't even know how many months.
What's up with y'all?
But...
Hey, man. It happens. All right.
It happens.
Sometimes whole towns disappear.
You guys, we thought it was just people. Sometimes it's a shitload of people.
So what got me into this topic originally was a story out of China about a whole village allegedly disappearing.
I mean, there's a lot of people over there. Honestly, a good percentage of them.
No, I don't know.
I was gonna say a good percentage. They're accountable for like half the world's population practically. Some people are gonna go missing.
All at once from the same place?
Well,
without explanation?
Probably not that. I guess.
I don't really think I don't think population is a factor in mass disappearances.
It's got to be, right?
How do you figure?
Well, like, if there's just a group of 10 people sitting in a room, they're not going to disappear.
What in the fuck are you talking about?
Because what I'm trying to say is like, okay, in a big group of people, you know, like your chances of getting murdered, they just like go up because more people.
What?
Not the percentage chance goes up, but the volume of disappearance is going to go up because there's a higher volume of people.
Yeah. But it's not going to take place all in one location and be 100% of the people in that location.
No, I wasn't making a true logical argument. I was just saying something stupid. What had happened was I said something stupid for comedic effect. Heck. It was neither intelligent nor funny. Thusly, carry on.
Nailed it. So, Qinling Mountains in central China.
Have you ever been to China?
No.
Okay.
You?
No, never. My cousin used to work there a lot. It looks beautiful.
There's this big mountain range in the middle, kind of in the middle of the country, like divides northern and southern China.
Okay.
And there's this story that came that I've found originally on ntdtv.com, which is like a local Chinese news station, I guess.
Tight.
The translation of the article is iffy at best, but
thanks, Googs.
Yeah, the tag for this article. I'm guessing this is not correct, but they tagged it Night Raccoon Cat Event.
God bless. Also, it interchangeably changes to Night Civet Cat Incident, which I don't know if...
I don't know that word.
I don't know if that's just like a misspelling of
raccoon.
Of raccoon.
It's an aggressive misspelling. It has none of the same letters.
Mash keyboard, raccoon. No, not even a little bit.
I'm gonna start out reading from this article because it kind of makes sense before it totally goes off the rails. This is this article is from earlier this year, but it's talking about something that happened a while ago. Whatever, it's hard to say. But it says, on the Earth, many people disappeared every day, but the whole village disappeared overnight.
Wait.
It was not a murder, not a riot. Where did these people go?
Read the first part, just the first two sentences, or the first two parts of the sentence again.
On the Earth, many people disappeared every day.
Yep. See, that was literally the point I was trying to make earlier.
That's not a point. That doesn't...
Facts.
Your point was there are a lot of people in China, therefore some have to go missing every once in a while? Is that what you're trying to say?
Correct.
Okay. But not whole towns.
Well, that's to the second point of their sentence.
So I found some more information about this. Basically, the rough idea is that a whole village disappeared overnight.
Now, when you say a whole village,
like all of the people,
okay,
most of the animals,
I would imagine including the raccoons and the cats.
I guess.
Maybe only the raccoons and the cats? Maybe only the raccoons and the cats were what was left.
Okay. Yeah. Because there's also, it mentions snakes many times, that there are apparently there's some type of snake that lives primarily or exclusively in the Qinling Mountains.
Okay.
And in the area surrounding this village, they were all gone.
Okay.
So either they had fled for some reason or been pushed out by something or someone, or they got abducted.
It seems like kind of a strange set of three species to call out as going missing. But
agreed. There's also a UFO report associated with this, or reports, perhaps. People reported seeing UFOs flying over the area the night that this happened. And there's at least one video of the alleged UFO.
What? I did not see any video.
Yeah, it's a lot of the articles link to a YouTube video that's disabled, but I found one spot that had it reposted or rehosted somewhere else. It's basically a bright blue light sort of right at the horizon, but it sometimes raises above the horizon and sometimes dips below the horizon. And it's really hard to tell with any level of detail what what it is or the scale of what you're looking at, other than You're looking off to the horizon. And then there's some people talking in the background, and I couldn't understand what they were saying.
Because it was in Chinese, ostensibly.
I came across a translation on an above top secret post.
Shout out!
The highest quality information.
The Wikipedia of the weird.
And the translation essentially boiled down to, what the fuck is that? Is that a UFO? Whoa, bro, look at this.
All right.
Yeah, something along those lines.
I mean, that seems relatively in line with the shit we would probably holler.
Some maybe information about the raccoon cat thing.
Yeah, okay.
Towards the end of this translated article from NTD TV, it says, second, it was a spy event. In order to get a state secret, the entire village was transferred to another place, and the CCP issued a level 1 confidential document to block the news. Third, the night raccoon cat is the code name of an action, but also the code name of this incident. So I think they're saying not anything actually about those two animals, but that's some weird translation of the code name for this alleged spy event cover-up thing that resulted in this whole village going missing.
We just use individual nouns usually in this country. We say paperclip, and they say night raccoon cat.
Well, night raccoon, because even it even says in two sentences, like right after one after the other, it says the night raccoon cat, and then it says the night raccoon.
I
don't know.
Raccoon cat sounds like a pretty sweet.
Put it on the list.
Put it on the list. Yeah. Also, I really want a T-shirt that just says, second, it was a spy event. It's so declarative. It means absolutely nothing at the same time.
Also,
and I
it's
love
like
it.
the 6th paragraph in. He said, this author says second.
By the way.
Also, just one more thing about how much I love this Google translation.
Yes.
About, I don't know, 2 paragraphs in, it says, the official did not respond to the night civet incident, claiming it was only a rumor. Hey! There are also analysts who may be involved in the occurrence of nuclear bases in the Qinling Mountains, which is still a mystery.
I'd like to clarify.
There is a sentence that is just HEY exclamation point.
I'd like to clarify. Spencer did not get so excited by the previous sentence that he was like, "Pow!
No, that was a direct quote from the article.
Dude, I love the version of your character on the show that you get so excited about reported alien news that you just start scatting.
Oh, yeah, hey!
Skitty pow! Woo! Like fucking thrilled. And then it came over the horizon. Dibbity-bip-bitty.
Yeah,
what?
Damn!
Bro, are you so excited you're scatting right now?
That's basically what the soundboard is for me.
That's true. That's exactly true.
So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the fuck happened with this incident, if it was an actual incident, if it was a hoax, if it was a UFO, if it was
military,
some sort of military cover-up, if it was both. If 1,000 people just disappeared, who's reporting this? How did we get that video from a guy who disappeared?
Also, how did we get that video from 1987?
Okay, so some places, this article says 1987. The article was published in 2017. The date, or like the date line on it is 2018. And then everywhere else I read about it said 2010. So we have at minimum 4 dates ranging across 30-ish
40 years, yeah,
of when this happened.
It's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call that a spectrum.
So, and then every other article I could find seemed to mostly be a reworking of that initial NDT TV article.
Yeah.
It was covered in a few UFO publications, in air quotes, blogs, blog spots, Weeblies occasionally.
Shout out to Weebly. Keeping the internet bullshit since 1999.
So I think maybe a better translation of some of the stuff from that original article says a village in the Qinling Mountain inexplicably, they misspelled that, disappeared. Now the military has cordoned off the area. According to eyewitnesses, a UFO flying around.
Okay.
Qinling Mountains in the Snakes have fled.
In the Snakes.
There are mountains in the Snakes.
Oh,
there
no.
are also insiders of the nuclear base in the Qinling Mountains in the accident. So when I said better translation, I meant different and possibly worse.
Stranger?
With
nuclear plant in the mountains?
That is a thing that is mentioned sometimes. That they're and I've heard nuclear plant, which I would think would be pretty easy to confirm or confirm the existence or non-existence of, just through like Google Maps and shit, Google Earth.
Yeah.
I think maybe what they're trying to say is that there might be like missile facilities in the mountains.
That makes a lot more sense to me because I'm not a smart man, but I'm pretty sure building a nuclear reactor in a mountain and then trying to get that electricity into other places.
It's also like a pretty
easy.
It's a pretty rural area, it looks like.
That's what I was going to say is I don't feel like it makes much sense to just build it in the middle of nowhere and then be like, all right, let's get this electricity back to the people.
Right. It's in like the exact center of the country, basically. And I'm sure there are obviously tons of nuclear power plants in China, but I think what they're getting at is
some sort of testing facility or weapons facility
in an area that it might be easier to conceal something like that. And so there's maybe an angle of like people were evacuated for some reason.
Interesting.
And that reason being something military and or government related.
Do you think China's a big enough country that like one governmental organization was like, oh shit, the test went bad. You guys got to leave. Come with us. And then the next day, another government organization showed up and was like, what the hell? Where'd all the people go? Just didn't talk to each other. And one of them evacuated and one was like reporting them missing.
It's impossible to track where this reporting is coming from too, though. And if there's any legitimacy to any of it, you know, it's all going back to one article that I don't think even has a byline on it.
Sure. Well, and you said this off air too, but
yeah, there's no one credited with writing this article. That everyone else is just rewriting.
Yeah, and you said this off air, but like, it's also really hard to get much information out of China that we can be reliant on from any sort of,
especially on the internet.
Well, right.
Yeah.
It almost conceptually anyway, it's I don't know, I would almost compare it a little bit to like an Area 51-y, you know, facility in the mountains.
Right. We have our own versions of these types of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we don't have a version where a sizable group of people in their permanent dwellings near Area 51 disappeared overnight along with all of the animals.
And maybe night raccoons or snakes.
And maybe
snakes in the accident.
And maybe the government...
Mountains and the snakes.
The government came to kill the mountains that were inside of the snakes.
Yeah. So anyway, when I got frustrated with how difficult it was to find information about that one, and it seemed like most likely it was like a hoax or like a vast... misunderstanding or exaggeration of some sort of actual event that I was never going to get to the bottom of.
Sure.
I started looking at other weird disappearances of whole towns or groups, very large groups of people.
Yeah.
I have 2 US based ones. You also have 2.
I've got one good one.
Okay, one good one, one shitty one. I've
got one in Canada. Eh?
Okay, let's start there.
You wanna go to Canada? Eh?
What part?
So we're going to hang on. I'm gonna fuck it up. None of it.
Pardon?
None. I'll have
none of. We're going to none of it, Canada.
I'll have none of it.
I said what part, and you said none of it.
None of it.
Okay.
But really, though, none of it. That's a real thing.
Okay.
Guess what happened?
None of it. I gotta look it up to make sure that I'm saying it right. NUNAVUT. None of it?
Yeah, sure, whatever. It's the most fun way to say it.
If I say it 10 more times, will it make more sense?
I think you should tell us what happens.
Well, so what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to go to the firsthand source that we have for it and actually read some of this firsthand source.
I'm getting dickered on this one.
And then we can go from there.
Okay.
So this comes from a newspaper called The Bee.
Tight.
Which was in
like BEE.
The BEE.
Nice.
In
love those guys.
What's that?
I love those guys.
Bees?
Yeah.
Tight. Unfortunately, no relation, I believe.
Well, whatever.
Why do they call it that? Aren't there a lot of papers that are like the so-and-so bee or like...
Yeah, I don't know. Not a journalist.
Is it because there's like...
Can't read.
They know the buzz?
I doubt it. I doubt it's a pun.
You know writers, though. We're all fucking... Look what I did with my words.
Can you tell us what happened, please?
We're in Danville, Virginia. It's Thursday, November 27th of 1930. I know the date that specifically because, in fact, a newspaper has that level of detail inside of their actual papers. The headline on the
date that things happened, correct. I would hope so.
Yes, exactly. The headline on, I don't know actually what page it is. It does not appear to be...
Ryan, no one cares what page of the newspaper that it's on. What happened? What is the story,
bud? Hang on, dude. I'm burying the lead. Relax.
Yes, severely.
It's deeper in the paper, so it's not like this wasn't fucking making huge headlines. But the headline for the article is, Vanished Eskimo Tribe Gives North Mystery Stranger Than Fiction. So, kind
of a clumsy headline.
A little bit. None of it, for those who are not familiar, is just east of Alaska.
Okay.
So in Canada, but east of Alaska. It's obviously very far north. It's obviously dark for a lot of the year. It's also obviously extremely cold and unforgiving, especially up in that area of Nunavut. There's a lot of Inuit tribes, but not much actual development. There's a lot of water and a lot of land as well. What?
You know, there's some land and some of it's water.
I mean, it's like vast open spaces.
Like animals and maybe some people. You know, Canada.
You know, Earth, right? I mean, more like vast open spaces and vast connected waterways, bodies of water, small lakes, rivers, etc.
Sure.
The weather is so unforgiving. I actually had to look it up. I looked up the closest development I could find, which is Enadai in Nunavut. The highs in January, February, March, and December, none of them are warmer than 12 below zero.
Tight.
So, not great. And this newspaper story tells the tale of Joe LaBelle, who is a Canadian trapper who was trapping and exploring and camping in Nunavut. And as he's moving through the Arctic wilderness, Joe LaBelle finds what apparently was known by... Apparently, we still haven't pulled it. As soon as I said it, Spencer just gave me the eye.
You say it the same way. We don't need to pull it.
That's true. This village was supposed to be the article. So, okay, really quick. The article says Eskimo. I'm going to say Inuit. I'm going to read the article verbatim. I don't know what the appropriate term is. I'm pretty sure it's Inuit.
That seems like a good thing to figure out before we do this story.
I'm just saying I'm going to read that word in the article because that's how the article is written, but I'm relatively sure that Inuit is the correct term. I bet I don't want to offend anyone. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and I will retract. But anyway, this Inuit camp was there and apparently known to the trappers in the area, being vast open spaces of both land and water. It was nice to have a place you could rely on to settle, get a meal, see people, trade if you needed to, etc. So Joe LaBelle tells this story, and I'm not going to get into the language is very flourishy, I guess the time of the 30s, but Joe LaBelle walks upon this Inuit camp, and apparently it's a camp that's known to him, so he's going in to explore looking for people, and there are no people in this camp. Now, he said the camp itself was a camp of about 6 main tents, which was about 6 families and equated to around 25 to 30 people. None of the people that he was used to finding every time he visited this Inuit camp were present there. But they weren't just not present. They were not present in a way that was kind of scary. So I'm going to read from this article from the Bee. It says, Joe LaBelle admits that stumbling on the abandoned village gave him the creeps. A man doesn't get the creeps readily when he spends months at a time trudging by his lonesome across these barren lands where there is never a house or a human or anything to break the white-rimmed silence. See, it's all like flourishy and kind of strange. But Joe LaBelle got creeped just the same. When he spied the tent colony, LaBelle says he sensed something was wrong. He had beached his canoe on the edge of the lake 100 yards or so distant and let out a hail of greeting as he walked up, but there was no answer. He then says that there were starving dogs that he came upon. So the dogs were present at the village, but were in bad shape, basically. Like he says they came crawling out towards him because they were so weakened by not having eaten that they were basically like malnourished to the point of being ill. And then a quote from Joe here later in the article, he says, the whole thing looked as if it had been just left that way by people who expected to come back, but they hadn't come back. I went outside and looked over the rest of the camp and I was puzzled. He talks about finding all of the tents in similar states where there were sewing needles left in sewing, as if someone had been sitting with something over, a stick and was sewing on it and had just gotten up and walked away. He said there was clothing. It hadn't looked like they had gathered belongings to leave and go to another place to come back to at a later time. Everything felt like it had been sort of just in an instant, people left in a rush without gathering their things or without doing anything, and were no longer there. They left food. They left water. And basically disappeared without a trace. So apparently Joe, when he got back from this trip, contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and told them, hey, I don't know what's going on, but somebody should go check on these people. And they did and found the same thing that he found at the Inuit village. And they were never found or heard from again. They didn't find them in other villages. They didn't find bodies. They didn't find anything. These people had just straight up disappeared.
How many people did you say?
Well, later, the story changes to a village of much greater size, but this is the first original telling of this story. And this one says he thinks somewhere between 25 and 30 people.
Based on when he had been there in the past, that's usually how many people were there?
That, and based on, yes, and also I think based on what he explored in the village. So this is how many tents I can see. This is how many sleeping spaces there were.
Sure,
this is, generally what he could suss out.
What would be the standard mode of travel in this area?
I think it would depend on the season, because in the summertime the snow does melt. It gets, becomes grass. So obviously in the summertime it would be walking. But in the wintertime, I would also imagine it would be dog sled, but I don't know.
Okay. And was there evidence of either of those things? No,
not that I could read. He didn't actually seem to find any like departure tracks.
What time of year did this happen? Or what time of year did he show up there?
I I don't know. It says that this story came from Manitoba on November 26th, and this was reported in the Danville Bee on Thursday, the 27th. So
November, probably. Sometime.
Mid to late November, I guess, by the time the story travels to Manitoba and then travels to Virginia.
It probably would have, I'm assuming, been snow covered already at any point in November.
Yeah, in my weather poll that I did, the highs of November, average high in November in this area, none of it is 8, and the average low is -6. So yes, more than likely that was going to be snow
and there
covered.
were no tracks. That seems sort of impossible, I guess, unless it had, well, we don't know how much time, I guess, had passed between whenever they left and whenever he showed up.
Yeah, and he doesn't say either how long it had been, at least not that I was able to find.
How long would it have been?
How long it had been since he had been there last.
Oh, got it.
So, to your point, could have been 6 weeks and all of that would have been well covered up by snow at that point, and there wouldn't be any signs of departure.
I guess if it was long enough for dogs to be starving to death, it was probably a couple weeks at least.
Right. So now the story gets a little weird because there isn't a whole ton of good data outside of this one primary source. And in fact, the story seems to grow the more it gets told. There are later tellings of the you're smiling and nodding knowingly.
No, it's I don't know this specific story, but I just always I suspect that with a lot of the stories that we talk about.
Yeah.
Especially when it's so hard to, in this case, we actually have an original primary-ish source.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of track that.
Yeah.
But I wonder with a lot of the stuff that we talk about, by the time we hear about it, especially when you're going back, 80 to 100 years with some of this stuff.
Yep.
I wonder how much changes in that story. And
yep.
Yeah. So what are the later versions of this?
I meant to say the location this is called Lake Angikuni. Angikuni, I think Angikuni.
Sure.
In later versions of the story, the number of people in the Inuit village grows. The highest version of it I saw reported was 1,000.
That's a lot more than 25.
Correct.
Those numbers are not similar at all, actually.
Yeah. And no, I totally agree with you that yes, these stories grow a lot. There was another piece of data later found that said that a grave had been dug up in the village, and that the village people would place sort of ceremonial stones around graves.
The band?
What? I missed it.
The band? The village people placed stones around their graves?
The people of the village. Oh. Yes. That's actually how they just bury people. They just sing YMCA as they lower them down. The energy seems odd, but it's a celebration of life. There were circles around the grave that apparently hadn't been disturbed. So the way they tell the story, essentially, I think it's a detail included to say that it wouldn't, a big animal that would have dug and tried to eat a fresh body or something like that would have disturbed the grave site more. If it were so
just saying it was done by a human.
I guess, yes.
Okay. But that could be someone traveling through the area, right? Doesn't necessarily mean it was someone who lived there, does it?
No. It could have been either. But just sort of a strange and I guess creepy detail to add to the story.
To be walking around digging up graves.
Yeah. Or did someone dig up the grave and everyone was like, fuck that guy, he's crazy, let's get out of here? Or,
Is it, I'm wondering about like the disease or why it would be what things would lead to like someone being buried recently and then everyone else leaving.
Yeah. But then why it would be dug back up again is also weird.
Well, I mean, that could be unrelated. Slash probably is.
Yeah. Fair. So this too might be bullshit.
Theme of the episode. Theme of the podcast.
There was a significant amount of reporting on this that happened both in Canada and away from it. But the RCMP apparently got more inquiries about this topic after it had come out because people were asking questions about where was this and who was this. And the RCMP did a little bit of research and actually found that Joe, the guy who was interviewed for the story, the year that he went out was actually the first year that he had a hunting license or a trapping license. So his story that he had been through there a bunch seemed sort of strange, but other people said, well, maybe he just was trapping without a license for years and finally went, maybe I need to actually get this thing legit.
That seems very possible to me.
It does seem very
Especially
possible.
in 32, you said?
30.
30?
30, yep.
Yeah. Joe, who goes trapping where the high is -8, doesn't give a fuck about a trapping license.
I sure wouldn't. I'd be a lot more concerned with staying alive.
That's the Bee Gees. That's not the Village People, Ryan.
That's all we can do. 2 Oz. Anyway, I guess the colorful language of the writer of the original B article was assessed as similarly colorful language to some other stories that appeared to be, should we say, exaggerated?
So this is a question that I was considering or pondering earlier today. On a scale of 1 to bullshit, how bullshit were newspapers in the 1930s, especially in small towns?
Well, I think you have a whole lot of leeway. You're in Virginia in 1930, and this is a story from Nunavut, Canada.
Right.
Like, who's gonna go, no way? Who's going to check you on that? Your paper's never going to get in the hands of somebody in Manitoba that day.
And even if they did, who
cares?
Yeah. Are there any repercussions of that? Your goal is to sell newspapers, right?
Right. And also, too, if you actually go through, you can find there's a library scan of the Danville Bee from this day. The language that I read in that earlier part, the article is actually kind of long, and there are more details that I didn't cover and I'm not going to cover. But there's definitely a flourish to the whole thing. It's told in a very narrative way, in not just newspaper reporting, journalistic, these are the facts form, but more, and the night, and he got creeped out, and it just feels like it's told in a way that's trying to make you go, this is juicier than maybe it really was.
This is at least partially fiction.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear about one from Iowa that's almost certainly mostly fiction?
Totally. I just want to close this loop by saying the RCMP has publicly said they think this is an urban legend because they don't have a good, granted, their data and reporting from the 30s was probably not super great later in like the 60s when the story kept getting brought back up. But they were basically like, we don't have reports of this. We don't think there's a village up there. We've never heard about one. And so they think it was a trapper and a news person in Manitoba saying, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right. Iowa. Urkhammer, Iowa. That's U-R-K, hammer.
I think this is our first Iowa story.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Iowa's okay, sort of.
Well, there's not a...
I've had exactly one good time in Iowa.
There's not a lot of people there, man.
So no one should go missing by your logic.
Not a lot of disappearances. Need more people to have more people disappear.
This takes place between 1928 and 1932-ish.
Okay.
And starting in 1928, people started to doubt that the town of Urkhammer, Iowa existed.
Which people?
People.
Just Iowans?
I could literally find not a single primary source for this one. So we are indulging some total bullshit, most likely here.
Let's ride.
But it's not the first time nor the last. In 1928, most of my information from this one came from things that end with .blogspot.com.
Perfect.
Fanfic. Basically. People started to doubt that this town existed because aerial photographs of the area, which I'm not sure who was taking aerial photographs of random towns in Iowa in 1928, but apparently someone was.
Cool.
Where there should have been homes and streets and stores, according to people who had been there before, there were simply fields and farms that looked to be abandoned.
Sorry, can I just...
Absolutely.
My initial reaction to this is like, did a guy just fly the wrong direction?
Yes, absolutely. Flying was pretty new back then.
What's the name of it?
Photography was pretty new back then.
Yeah. Navigation as a whole. What was the name of the town?
Urkheimer. U-R-K Hammer.
Urkheimer.
I'm going Urkheimer.
The Urkheimer.
Aerial photos of probably the wrong place showed empty fields where there should have been a town.
This is the best.
Soon after that, I think about a week later, there was a report from a tourist who was passing through the area and stopped at a gas station to fill up. And when he was leaving, ran out of gas.
Okay.
Fills up his car, drives like a couple miles out of town, runs out of gas.
Which town?
Urkheimer.
Oh, so he found it.
Yep.
It existed when he went there.
Correct.
Got it.
He filled up with gas, kept going, got a couple miles out of town, ran out of gas.
Okay. That's not a normal thing that should happen to your car.
No. So he thought he had gotten ripped off or something by the attendant who charged him, but only put like a tiny bit of gas in or something.
Or water.
Yeah. So he has to walk back into town to get gas, and then he's going to walk back to his car. He reported that as he was walking back to town, no matter how long he walked, he was not getting any closer to the town.
That's such a trippy concept.
So he estimated when he ran out of gas that he was about 2 miles out of town. Should have been, 30, maybe 40-minute walk back into town. He's walking for a couple hours and is no closer than when he started.
Was he any further from his car?
That was my question. Was he like 5 miles away from his car, but the town was still 2 miles away?
Or was he just walking on like a treadmill?
Yeah. I think it's the former. I think it was he was moving away from his car.
But somehow couldn't get back to the town.
But it was like the town was moving away from him at the same rate.
Got it.
I think is what is being described here.
Got it. All right.
At this point, some other people picked him up and drove him back to his car into another town to get gas. So he said, fuck that town forever.
Hey, can you guys take me to Urkheimer? The fuck are you talking about? It's no town called Urkheimer, you fucking weirdo. Like, shit.
Other people who would pass through started reporting that what used to be a busy, active town now appeared to be empty or abandoned. And that there were still houses and buildings and stuff there, but they did not appear to be occupied.
Sick.
In 1929, so I think that first report came from like fall of 28.
Okay.
So a few months later, the Davenport Clarion Sun Telegraph,
all right,
Davenport newspaper, published versions of both of these stories.
Okay.
They received a letter from a woman claiming to live in Urkheimer. Her name was Fatima Morgana.
That sounds like a television show name.
Fatima Morgana?
Mm-hmm.
Well, quote, disputing the apparent non-existence of her town.
I'm real, goddammit! And my brother's real. And my dog is real.
And relating her life story there as a school teacher and anti-saloon league activist. Because it was the 20s.
Look, I know what a saloon is, and I know what a league is. I do not know what a saloon league is.
An anti-saloon league.
I
think
see.
it was a league of people who were anti-saloon.
Now I get it. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just
like
generally
some sort of competitive drinking.
That's right where my head went. I was like, sick.
You don't say.
I'm sick. I was born in the wrong era.
Urkhammer's own newspaper, the Bugle Picayune Advertiser, ran the headline, "Rumors of our non-existence have been greatly exaggerated."
Oh, that's like a thing, isn't it? That line?
For which they were promptly sued by the estate of Samuel Clemens.
Oh, right. Yes. Rumors of my demise have been.
Yeah.
You can't copyright a man's last words. You can.
They tried, I guess.
You can if this story's bullshit.
Well, it probably is.
All right.
Also, like, if a newspaper is coming out of a town, there's a town, right?
I mean, it's a pretty elaborate hoax if it's not.
But then also, if it's a small town in Iowa in the 1920s, their newspaper is being distributed outside of the town?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense.
No.
Maybe someone got their hands on a copy.
From a place that also doesn't exist?
No, maybe maybe it does exist, but someone was trying to like beef up the tourism there.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Just having the newspaper would seem to be pretty good evidence that it exists, that the place exists.
No, but what I'm saying is there is no printing press in Urkhammer at all. Someone who's from in a surrounding area who has access to a printing press is like, man, we should build this city.
Got it.
Let's put out a fake paper that says, we're real, come see us.
So, part 4 of this Urkhammer may or may not be a real place story. In 1932, there was a group of farming families moving from Illinois all the way to California. So they had a train of families basically moving across the country because they figured there'd be better farm life to be had on the coast.
The gold rush.
Yeah. On the way, they spent a night near Urkhammer, and two of the men who were in this group of families went into the town to get supplies.
Okay.
The incredible names continue, by the way.
Sick.
Paducah Bankforth.
Oh!
And Tribulation Estonices. Estonices? I don't... Estonikis?
I'm into it. Whatever it is, I'm into it.
They walked into the town, which is more success than our previous gasless friend had. And they got to some sort of general store. And they walked up to the front steps of the store. And as they stepped on the first of the steps, their foot just went through it.
Uh-oh.
As if it were like a hologram or something.
Did you fall in a hole, bud?
So this article says, quote, "Convinced that this was some sort of plot to prevent outsiders from shopping at the store." Very elaborate plot, especially for 1932. You made a hologram store because we don't. We will have no outsiders give us their money.
Fuck you. You tripped, dummy. Fuck you. We're going to win.
They found a board nearby and laid it like up to the door, right? So because they figured just the steps were ghost steps.
Got it.
Everything else, board, store, town, must be real, just ghost steps. Turns out it was also a ghost board and a ghost store because they were unable to walk up the board, and when they tried to knock on the door, their hand just went through the door.
I like this concept of being able to pick up a board, move the board into place.
Right.
And then as soon as you step foot on the board is now not a board anymore.
It's now a ghost board. Someone is actively fucking with you and or us by the fact that we're reading this nonsense story from 1932.
Someone's going to hear this. They're going to search for Urkhammer and they're going to go, "Can you believe these motherfuckers?"
So they went back to their camp because they were freaked out by the ghost store, and they obviously weren't going to be able to buy any supplies anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they called. There's so many parts of the story that are problematic. So
tight.
They contacted police, which I think were like state police.
Okay.
Who then went to the Urkhammer's sheriff's office. So they this group of people contacted Iowa State Police. Iowa State Police says, okay, we'll check out this ghost store or whatever the fuck they reported.
Try to buy some shit. They're tricking me.
The Iowa State Police go to the Urkhammer's sheriff's office, and as they attempted to knock on the door of the sheriff's office, they had the same problem that the gentleman had at the store. In which their hand simply went through the door.
You know, I was kind of roasting the concept of a holographic, like, I don't know what you call it, general store. But the elite level of trolling involved in just creating a holographic town that just is like, dude, come on into the bar, psych.
This whole thing reads like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Totally.
Especially with it happening over a period of 4 years where it seems like this town is just sort of fading from existence. It didn't happen all at once. There seems to be evidence that it did exist at least at one point. And then over like month by month over 4 years, less and less of the town existed. And the people went away first, and then like the houses went away, and then the stores were kind of there, but you couldn't really touch them. And then eventually the town just disappeared. And it says the last thing left was a bathtub in a field.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. And by the end of 1932, the town was completely gone, except for the bathtub in a field.
Did it hold water?
The story or the bathtub?
Hey-o! Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Wherever heck is.
Heck. I meant the bathtub. Was it a ghost tub?
It says
if you tried to bathe in the tub.
A cast iron bathtub. So the only thing real in the town was one guy's bathtub, apparently. He disappeared. The house disappeared. The bathtub remains.
That whole time,
the plumbing going to it was fake.
There's just a genius guy sitting in a bathtub. He'd created an elaborate system of visual trickery around him and just sat in his bathtub laughing at all the people coming in trying to buy shit from his
bathtub
fucking fake city.
Was the one thing immune to the interdimensional demise of Urkhammer.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I like envisioning him just dragging a bathtub out there and then being like,
well, no, it was inside his house originally. His house disappeared. He disappeared.
Oh, I'm saying this is his personal hoax.
Oh, one actual human being.
Yes.
Not from the town of Urkhammer just put a bathtub in a field and convinced everyone else that there used to be a town there full of people?
That, or he was the one building the holograms themselves around his own bathtub.
These 1930s holograms?
I'm saying, yeah. He's just sitting in the bathtub.
It was
being
Tesla.
Like, it was Tesla. Yeah. Laughing in a bathtub surrounded by walls of holograms.
Well, if this hasn't been one of the goddamn silliest episodes we've ever had.
Bear, thanks for the za. I'm hungry and I'm pissed I didn't eat it. We should have said, sure, we'll take it.
Yo.
What happened?
Maybe it was a hologram pizza delivery guy.
Oh, shit. Oh,
Domino's isn't real.
Oh, good.
If we go over there, it'll fade out of existence.
Dude, Domino's is totally real. I've eaten it. I've eaten it.
Recently, though, it's been slowly fading from existence.
Oh, well, it's been a
The taste was the first thing to go.
Shots fired.
Next, their steps are going to disappear.
I'm trying to see one of those autopilot Domino's cars drive up and drop off your pizza with like the oven window. Have you seen that shit?
Nope.
They got like a
oven window. Put it on the list.
Oven window. They've got a little rear window where you type in the code they give you once you've ordered your pizza, and the rear window of the car just blast it into your face.
Pew, pew, pew.
It's like a Ninja Turtles episode.
Yeah. It's just the turtle van.
It's the turtle van.
Yeah.
They just shoot it into your door.
Yeah, you got a mail slot, right?
Splats.
It just lines it up exactly. They use lasers and shit.
Just one piece of cheese like makes it through your mailbox.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to go one slice at a time, but it's intelligent. It reassembles itself on the inside of your house.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I was going to say if we had a Turtles van, we should just go egg someone's house with it.
We out of here!
Hey,
dumb.
guys, we love you. Hey, one more time before we go, please, sincerely, go vote. Take the time to go vote. If you have friends or family who might not vote, go get them. Get them to vote with you. It's important, and we believe in it. If you want to send us an email, hit us up at hi@whatifpodcast.com. If you want to leave us a voicemail like Bear just did about our missed pizza opportunity, you can call us at 612-246-4614. As always, thank you so much for your supporting and sharing the show. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Say, you all didn't happen to do a bunch of drugs, did you?